Good evening. It's 7:01. We'll call the meeting to order. Ken, would you do the roll, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Larson,
Present.
Commissioner Wagner, not present. Commissioner Steeler,
Present.
Chair Gerard,
Here.
Commissioner Young,
Here.
Commissioner Stender,
Here.
Commissioner Miller, not here.
Thank you. We ask if you're able, please join us, stand and join us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented or with changes. Commissioner Young?
Mr. Chair, down in number 6 and number 7, number 6, we have two public hearings, but we do not have on the agenda any provision for us to make a recommendation to City Council. So I would move that agenda item 6 be revised to have a 6A1, which is consideration of the comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment, et cetera, and that there be a 6B1, consideration of the variances for signage, the Forest Lake Ford, et cetera.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented or with changes. Chair would like to pull item A, the Planning Commission meeting minutes from May 8th, 2024. So that would, so that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The issue with the meeting minutes is when we adjourn on that, at that meeting, the vote was an 8-0 vote. It should have been a 7-0 vote, so just a small minor change. That's the only change I have. Any other changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We have our first regular agenda item, which is a public hearing for the comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment for Donnelly, 932 2nd Street Northwest. This is a public hearing. The way this will work this evening is the city staff will present the application as they understand it. The commissioners will then ask any clarification questions that they need from the staff. We will then ask the applicant if they would like to add anything. Upon that being complete, we will then hold a public hearing. When everyone has spoken to that, and I'll give a few more rules for that when that time comes, then we will close the public hearing, and then we will bring it back for, in this case, a recommendation to City Council. So with that, I believe, Ken, you're presenting?
Yeah, that would be me. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, audience. The first item on the agenda is, as introduced, the proposed comprehensive plan amendment and zoning ordinance map amendment for property at 932 2nd Street Northwest. You know, that's one of the maps. Here we go. The property in question is this long, funky shaped property here. Again, 932 2nd Street Northwest, just north of Highway 8 and just west of Forest Road and Highway 61. Here's an enlarged look at the front part of the site. I'll go back to this one. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Okay, property also has a large amount of wetlands on it. So they are requesting two changes to the designations for the site. First is to the comprehensive plan designation. Our land use plan currently shows for rural residential use. Second change they're requesting is for the zoning of the property, which also shows rural residential use. It's this piece here. Currently, it has had a daycare center on the property that operated for about 40 years. The owners of the daycare property are proposing to sell the property, and the buyer wants to use it. I'll go back to this map. Again, here's the front part of the property that's not in the wetland. For an office space and storage space for his exterior contracting business. It's currently based out of his home in Hugo. But to run a business out of this property, both the comprehensive plan and zoning need to be changed because commercial business office use is not permitted in those designations, again, residential. So first we'll look at the comprehensive plan amendment and how that fits or doesn't fit with this request. Again, currently planned residential, rural residential, which is for large lot, single-family homes of maybe one unit every 5 or 10 acres. We can't discern, or I couldn't discern how this property was planned rural residential and zoned rural residential. Probably historically goes back 30 or 40 years, but that's not real important now other than the change that's in front of the commission this evening. Looking at the comprehensive plan change specifically, and I'll go back to this one, again, to change this to the commercial designation, which is the same as the property to the north and this property to the east, we look to see if there's any standards or goals or policies that the city should follow when considering such a change. There aren't specific criteria in our city code or in the comprehensive plan for considering a change. However, I outlined in the report some of the goals in the comprehensive plan that are most relevant to this request. First one I outlined is on page 12 of the packet, page 2 of the report, is protecting the natural resources. Again, the proposed plan, with going back here, they are not proposing any changes to the front of the property. The applicants want to use the building primarily as it is, again, for office space and storage, and use the parking lot as is. And with the large wetland area in the rear to the west, that would not be impacted, and I don't think any development could ever impact that because of the watershed district regulations in place now. The second thing I looked at was our guidance for land and managing growth. And that talks about needing specific land uses for needing all sorts of housing types and needs, and provide increased areas for commercial, industrial, and job growth. And again, this proposal would meet that. The loss of the 8 acres or 8.9 acres of residential designation, yes, that's an impact, but in reality, again, there's not going to be much residential development there, if any. And I would argue it's not a good place for it with the highways and the location right adjacent to those highways. We also looked, I also looked at the goals and objectives for economic development and the comprehensive plan. And again, this proposal fits that in that it's acknowledging the importance of attracting and encouraging new light industrial, office, industrial, and professional services to the city, soliciting small or businesses that would fill voids in current range of retail or business services in the city, and providing an adequate amount of land for commercial industrial uses. Again, I think this proposal checks all those boxes. If the city changes the zoning map, then at the same, or excuse me, the comprehensive plan, the city should also change the zoning map. And again, that's this map, again, shown rural, residential. The zoning map change, again, would be to the B3 district, which is consistent with the area to the north and east. And there are 13 standards in the city code for considering a zoning map amendment. I outlined those in the report. A couple of highlights, I won't read them all, are that the existing and proposed use of the zoning of- and, excuse me, the existing use and zoning of nearby properties. Again, the proposal is to be consistent with the B3. There is rural residential here, but that is for homes that are coming in off to the north and west. That we are to consider the context of the development and land uses in the area. I think that zoning map change fits that as well. That there be adequate buffer or transition between potentially incompatible districts. Again, with the large wetland complex here, there will be plenty of buffer, and that the proposed action will not adversely affect property values. That all said, again, I think this proposal meets those criteria, and I'll leave it at that. I touched on in the report a couple other items, more just for background and information. Outlined a little bit about parking. It looks like there's maybe room for 20 or 22 spaces or vehicles here, my best count. And at most, the applicant is saying they might need 10, 12 spaces. So there should be plenty of parking on site without needing any changes. If there were to be changes, then they would have to go through a design review process. I received some traffic information and student counts from the seller, the applicant, co-applicant of the property. And in summary, the number of vehicle trips when this facility was operating at its peak were probably 120 to 130 trips per day in and out, with drop-off, pickup, buses, et cetera. And with the business use, it might be 10 or 20 trips. So certainly a lot less impact on traffic. In the area, access, they are not proposing any changes. That, again, no proposed changes to the parking at this point. And just as a way of information, there is no public infrastructure, sewer and water, I should say. Near this site, the closest is down to the south, about 1,200 feet south of Highway 8. They are proposing to use the existing well and septic on site. We had the neighborhood meeting back on May 29th. We had the buyers, the sellers here. One of the realtors was in attendance, one of the neighbors, actually two of the neighbors that are the closest neighbor to the north. One of the commissioners and myself were in the meeting. Had a chance for some questions and answers and discussion about the history of the property and what's being proposed and that kind of thing. I thought it was a productive meeting. We did advertise this meeting as a public hearing, as you introduced, Mr. Chair, so that will be coming up. We have not received any comments via email or phone call ahead of the meeting as of even this afternoon. So in summary, it's staff's opinion that this proposal, both to change the land use plan and the zoning map, meet our findings, goals, and standards for such changes. So in your report, page 16 of the packet, page 6, there's two recommendations. One is to recommend approval of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment. And then the second recommendation is to recommend approval of the proposed zoning ordinance map amendment, again, for this property here at 932 2nd Street Northwest. And with that, I will take questions. And there are applicants and applicants' representatives here as well.
Commissioners?
Ken, you're going to need two separate motions on this, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Other question? Ken, what is, whenever we get a contractor, which I like, I'm always concerned on outdoor storage. What is the rules for outdoor storage in the B3? I meant to look that up.
What they have told us so far is there's a garage here they will be using for storage. And part of the building they will be using for storage. They also explained that they're primarily residential exterior work, siding, roofing, and most materials get taken to the job site and not brought to the office. This will serve more of an office and meeting function than a delivery drop-off point for materials.
But what is the requirement in the
Oh,
B3?
if they wanted to have outdoor storage, then we're into a site plan review, possibly screening requirements, landscaping, all those kind of things.
Okay,
None
thank you.
proposed at the moment.
Like the Winnick property,
I'm sorry.
like the Winnick property.
Any other questions for staff? I understand the applicant is here. Would you wish to add anything?
No, like Ken said, I did all that
You want,
comment.
Doug, you want
We
to hop up
ask
and
you to
use the
please come
microphone?
up to the lectern.
Sorry, I came from my grandson's soccer game, so I'm
And
dressed a little
I ask you
cash.
state your name and address for the
Okay.
record, please.
Doug Amundson, Precise Exteriors. So what Ken said is correct, and nothing will be stored there. The only, when I say storage, we have extra material from job sites that I'm not going to throw away. So I'm not going to fill landfill. So we'll keep that and reuse it for the next job down the road. But we don't have materials dropped at, or would not have them dropped at the office. They all go directly to the job site.
Sounds
So
good.
when I say storage, that's very minimal on what would be put in the garage.
Okay.
So just want to clarify that.
As long as you're up there, any questions from staff? Or from, I'm sorry, from commissioners?
Through the chair, how big a company do you have? How many staff would be officing out of this location?
At full capacity, if you want to say that, five people. So it's my son and I who are partners, and my daughter-in-law, which probably would not be there. We have an office manager, and then we have a production manager and a sales manager. So,
All right, any other questions? Thank you. We may have some questions later for you.
no problem.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. This is a public hearing. What we'll do is we'll open the public hearing. We wish anyone who wishes to speak to this application, please step up to the lectern, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving your thoughts on the application. Once we have heard from everyone interested in speaking, we will close the public hearing, and we will bring it back up here then for recommendations to the city council. Excuse me. So we'll open the public hearing at 7:18 PM. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Ken, do we have anyone online who wishes to speak to this
Don't mind
application?
my shift. I don't see any.
Okay. This is where everyone gets to hum the Jeopardy theme for a minute or so. I'll ask again, does anyone wish to speak to this application? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing at 7:19 PM. Bring it back to the commissioners. What would you like to do?
I'd make a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the proposed comprehensive plan amendment.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
I'll make a second motion to recommend the city council approval of the proposed zoning ordinance map amendment.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it. Dual, huh?
Yeah.
I have a motion and multiple seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. So the way this will work now, this will move on to city council, and they will take it up at the
June 24th.
June 24th meeting. So we make a recommendation to them, and then the council will make the final decision. But on behalf of the planning commission, welcome to Forest Lake. We wish you great success.
And I greatly appreciated your openness to my questions at the neighborhood meeting. It took care of a lot of my concerns. I appreciated that.
You can stay, or if you want to go, it's,
There's more riveting stuff coming.
Riveting?
Pardon me?
Riveting?
Riveting.
riveting.
Nothing clears a room faster.
Handing out a revision that I will discuss for our next item. I
Handouts.
wanted to get it in front of you before it comes time to vote.
It's okay. Thank you, sir.
The underline is changed in what explained.
I'm not even gonna look at you. Where are we at here? Page.
We've gone from 2 to 3. We've gone from
All
2
right.
to 3 and we went up.
I'm back, Mr. Chair.
All right. So, item 6B is a public hearing for variance for signage for Forest Lake Ford, 508 15th Street Southwest. Ken, you're presenting?
I am, sir, thank you. Forest Lake Ford. This site here on the east side of I-35 along 15th Street Southwest, excuse me, has made application to the city for variances for a pylon sign to go up and be visible from Interstate 35. All right, gotta switch around here. Okay. This is a little bit of a dated aerial map, but I included it because there's an important element here. This was the site before they started their construction. There are 2 billboards on the property, one here in the red circle and here in the southern red circle. Ford is requiring the developers, builders of Forest Lake Ford to install a pylon sign out along the interstate. And when the original planning and site work was going on, they were originally intending to put it, I think, in about this area here. And their narrative explains this, through the process of figuring out if that sign would work or not, and then understanding the requirements of the billboards, which are here and here. This crosshatched area is what I call a site visibility triangle, or an area where, because of the contractual requirements of the billboards, the Ford development cannot put up anything that would obstruct the view of those billboards, which falls in those areas, which would include probably would have been the best site for their pylon sign. In fact, the gentleman from Ford have told me that even their lights along this part of the parking lot, which were 12 or 16 feet tall, 4 or 5 inches in diameter, the billboard owners were concerned that those might be blocking the view of the billboard. They may have to change those lights. That's how restrictive they are. So then they've figured out, well, that's not going to work. What can we do? So they've made application for variances for, it was originally 2 things, and it turns out it was 3. And I'll get to that in a minute. And so code allows, I'll get this work here. Code allows, and requires actually, I'll go back, my apologies. The way the code is written, it says they can, because they are adjacent to the freeway, they can have 2 pylon signs. They're going to have one out front. Code allows a second one. It has to have a 20-foot setback from the right-of-way and can be no taller than 30 feet and a size limit of 100 square feet. You got to kind of check all 3 boxes to have that. But because of these site triangles and the limits on that, they can't meet those criteria. So they have proposed a couple, well, okay, I apologize. I'm going to jump around here. A couple alternatives. One is shown here is option 1 for a sign, and the other one is option 2 down here. Both those locations would keep the pylon sign out of the site triangles, but to do so, they have to have an increased setback from the right-of-way of anywhere from 90 to 110 feet, depending on which location. And to ensure that the sign would be visible, they would have to have it 47 feet tall, so it could be seen above the building. Let's say if you're going northbound, you could see it this way, And so it isn't blocking the site visibility of the other billboard, the existing billboards. Unfortunately, we discovered, after I wrote the report and deep into this, the code had that limit of 100 square feet for the sign face. Ford is requiring them, and that's this sign here, that sign face be 130 square feet. So the revised resolution, if it is so adopted, includes provisions for a setback variance, the height variance, and the sign face variance. We can talk through each of those if you wish or when you wish. So the big thing with variances is, probably most of the commissioners know, is we do have standards, whether we should or could approve those for any type of requests in the city. The biggest and probably the most important one is that because of particular physical surroundings, shape, or topographic conditions unique to the specific parcel involved, a practical difficulty to the owner would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of regulations were to be carried out. The applicants have identified these triangular sign site easement areas as the practical difficulty of the property. And to back up, again, when they were designing the site, laying it out, they proposed a sign here that met the criteria. After they started doing the deep dive and trying to negotiate with the billboard folks, that they weren't going to budge, they couldn't work out a deal, so now, again, that's part of the reason for the variance request. The code, as far as the setbacks, and we included that language, I frankly think it's written kind of poorly. It says, the secondary sign shall be located between the principal building and I-35, again in here, and shall be set back 20 feet from the I-35 right-of-way. It doesn't say be set back at least 20 feet from I-35. When I read that, it says it's gotta be 20 feet. Can't be 19, can't be 18, can't be 25, it's gotta be 20. I can't imagine that was the intent. I would think the intent would have been to be at least 20 feet, but it doesn't say that. So that's, I would argue, not the best written code. That's one of those many things we'll hopefully get to clean up at some point. So that 20 foot surely, certainly limits their options. The height, I'm going to jump back to the images. The height proposal now. Okay. So this is looking northbound on the freeway. This shows the sign here with 30 feet tall. The next image then shows it up at 47 feet tall. And then this is the southern port location. 30-foot tall sign is hidden behind the existing billboard. The 47-foot tall just peeks its head above the billboard. And then this is then looking southbound. Again, 30-foot billboard here, 30-foot tall, 47-foot tall. That helps ensure it's visible as you're going northbound, clearly more visible going southbound. And then for the option 2 site way down here, it's lost, not seen where, because again, part of the reason for the height is to get above the building itself, which is about 30 feet tall. So that's, the image is showing the 4 different views or images, north, south, northbound, southbound, and the 2 different sign locations. So back to the other criteria, I talked about the setbacks, talked about the height. Is a 40-foot or 47-foot tall sign along the freeway ideal? Probably not. Is it going to be distracting or harmful or any of that to the neighbors or to the general public? I sure don't think so. Are there signs across the freeway that might be that high? I wasn't able to determine if there are some that are 40 or more feet tall. There may be, I just don't know. The trickiest criteria is item C, which is page 29 in your packet, talks about plight of the landowners due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. And that gets back to the site plan. If everyone would have known a year ago, 18 months ago, that the sign placement was potentially going to be a problem, could the building have been redesigned and laid out differently, potentially? But we still struggle, I still struggle with that 20-foot setback requirement. That locks it in kind of right here, and then that almost puts it into those site triangles, so. But better planning, maybe something better could have been figured out that wouldn't have needed all the variances or some of the variances, don't know. So I'm not going to say that's 100% meeting that criteria. Lastly, would the granting the variances, I should say, alter the essential character of the locality? Again, I don't think so with all the commercial businesses and being along the freeway. I don't see that as an issue. So to wrap it up, my recommendation is for the commission to discuss the variances, and again, added a third one in that resolution that you have the 100 feet to 130 feet sign face size. If the commission's so inclined to approve those, and again, variances are approved by the council, or excuse me, by the commission. There is a motion with the resolution that I handed out, where all three, the original resolution was just for the height variance and the location variance. The amended one includes the sign face variance request for 130 square feet. That's it in a summary. The applicants are here to answer questions. I will answer those as well.
Commissioners, questions? Ms. Young?
Ken, we granted variances earlier on this project, did we not?
No, they, Madam Chair, or Mr. Chair, members of the commission, they had asked for variances on, I don't remember what it was, but that got denied. And they had to tweak their site plan to, it may have been with setbacks for the parking lot.
I believe along the fence line abutting the freeway. I think that they wanted to get closer.
Ken, as we look at C, we have frequently had variance requests. I bought a piece of property, it's gonna be our family home, we wanted a 5-bedroom property, whoops, this one will only fit a 2-bedroom cottage. I bought the property. To me, that's not, the property is a problem. It is, I bought a piece of property and I knew stuff was here and I knew what the size were. And so I have a real struggle with number C. It would be hard to purchase that property without knowing that the billboards were there. I know that when I purchased property, I looked at what the covenants and restrictions were on my property and made sure I could do the things I wanted to do. And I think that these are pretty smart business folks and that they would do the same. So could you help me understand how this particular request meets item C? Especially the request for the larger sign face and the additional height.
Not easily. And that's why my last sentence in that, my explanation says, however, one could say the circumstances now in place that limit the placement of the sign were created by the applicant landowner by how they designed and constructed the building. I'm sure they'll be able to answer that question better than I, but that's the one of all the criteria that I struggled with the most.
The building is designed, and as you showed us, has a very large face toward the expressway,
Yes.
right there.
Yep.
Driving by it on the expressway today from both directions. Why was it not considered to put a lighted sign on that face, which quite frankly would be more visible than what they're proposing, especially considering the 2 billboard signs that bracket this property?
Ms. Young, Mr. Chair, I believe they've applied for a sign permit for that wall. I just haven't, I remember reviewing one that, I think it'll just say Ford. I don't remember for sure, but there is one in the works. To be clear, I think the big push here, the pylon sign along the freeway, is being driven by Ford Motor out of Detroit, not the applicants. And they're trying to meet their contractual obligations to Ford, but they can address that much better than I.
Because I drive around the nation, and not every Ford sign is 47 feet high. And I have not measured all of them, but we are not the only city that has sign requirements.
Agreed.
Others, questions? I'll ask one. Ken, if you look on the graphic that you have up here, as you are on the, I'll call it the north, because you approach the north end of the building, you end up where the 2 lines meet, and it looks like you got, give or take 30 feet there maybe, between right where you're right there, in the building. What is the reason that the sign can't go into that area between the building and that magic triangle of the billboards?
I'm speculating, and again, they'll be able to answer this better. This is a drive aisle to get around the building, and that may cut into where vehicles could get through, especially trucks and fire trucks and that kind of thing. Is that we're in a pinch point, kind of right there. I don't have the dimensions of what that is, but the base of the sign probably needs to be 3 or 4 feet to support a 30 or 40-foot tall sign.
And do we know if Ford has a requirement that the middle of the Ford sign has to be on a pylon, or can it be off to the side? Or is that a question for the applicant?
Yes.
Could the pylon be on top of the roof?
No.
So that the maximum is still 30 feet?
Rooftop signs aren't allowed.
Okay. Or put the pylon right against the building, so that it's then not, anyway.
Yeah, all right. Other questions of staff? I believe the applicant is here. If you could step up, we have a couple questions for you. We ask that you state your name and address for the record, please.
Steve McDaniels, and I'm at 37 Catbird Lane in St. Paul.
Brian Okabo, I'm at 17720 Hyde Park Avenue.
Anything you'd like to add to begin with?
Sure, we're excited to be in Forest Lake. So we understand this is a problem of our own making. To Commissioner Young's comments, we did buy the 4 parcels and combine it into one. We were moving relatively quickly for a multitude of reasons. We've never had a sight line easement before in our properties with billboard. And we dealt with the owner of the billboard company, who is in Florida now and transferred it to her grandson. And the sightline easement that we negotiated said, reasonable. And this is my deal with our attorneys, so we fully thought, a 4-inch light pole, there's light poles everywhere on the highways and billboards. You would never notice that those light poles are there. But we had such a difficult time with that word, and they have the right, the contractual right, so we do have to cut those northern 5 light poles down to 11 feet. And that was hard with them to negotiate that. So you are right that it's on us. I have no problems stating that. We missed it, and we thought during that whole time we could negotiate to get that allowed in that spot. We would much prefer a 30-foot sign in the middle of the building on the highway rather than go 80 feet back from the road. I mean, that's a much better spot where we had it, and we pulled the wires to it. We pulled the wires for the sign and put up the light poles. So, we're not asking for sympathy by any means. We're just telling you what happened. We still thought even up to a month ago that we could find some way to get this done, but we can't. We failed on it. So we have to put a sign somewhere. Somebody made the comment of whether it's Ford or whether it's us. The auto manufacturers, which we have dealt with many, we represent others in the Twin Cities. They all are very protective of their sign image program in the whole nation. Mm-hmm. So when you do drive and see other signs, when you get a new point, like this is for Forest Lake, from Ford, they do have strict requirements, and you don't get to wiggle. So we pay for those monthly for life. We can't buy them, we don't own them. That is Ford's, one of the things that they get to impose on us as business partners with them, and we accepted that. We're doing everything we can to honor that with them by being here with you. That is their prerogative. Even the image sign on the building, those signs are regulated. The exterior of the building is regulated by them. So we wanted a bigger Ford oval on the east side. And they came out and said absolutely not, because their proportions are what they want. So I hope that answers some of those questions of what you were asking. The facts are, we would much prefer to be where we were. We don't want to be here asking you for this. We're very excited to be in Forest Lake. We do need a sign that can be seen from the highway. I think the Ford, to correct Ken a little bit on the Ford, the 47, they have increments of signs, that how many feet they have, and they have them built. It's not like I can say I want a 32-foot sign with a 80. To get above the building, that's the only sign, and that sign top is 130 square feet. And they say that's what it has to be. When you're going back 80 feet, that's why they design them that way, or they would look too small at that height. So that's where we're at with the sign from Ford. And we're doing everything we can to adapt to that. We are getting close. We're excited to be in town. This is kind of our last spot before we can get open.
And first, we're glad you're coming to Forest Lake.
We are very excited
I think
to be
it'll be
here.
a good addition. It's been a long time since we've had a Ford dealer.
Yeah, thank you.
So we welcome you to Forest Lake, but if you haven't heard it before, signs are always
I know.
a dismal topic for the Planning Commission. It's never favorable for either party.
So we know, and so that's why we thought that the setback to get back off the highway would help. We're back, we're not trying to get back into most businesses would try to keep that sign closest to the highway as you could. So we're back on our option 1, 80 feet, which is a big setback to get away from the cars. And option 2 is 110 feet in an island. I mean, so we want to answer any questions you have, and we think it fits the criteria, but we're not you, and we understand you have your issues to deal with.
Just to clarify, Ford is requiring the 130 square foot sign and the height?
No. To clarify, Ford has different increments of heights of signs that we can take from them. You know, the
Okay.
taller sign costs more, and it's frustrating. I've been on national automotive dealer councils, and this is a very intense topic with dealers and the OEMs, because the higher the sign, the more money they charge per month, and it's forever, plus the maintenance, and that's fine. So we wanted the 30-foot where it was. It's 2/3 the price, it's closer to the road. They're saying the sign they offer at that 47 feet, which is what it takes to get over that building, to see it, that's the top. That's what they have for that sign. Yes, sir.
Are there any signs in between 30 and 47? I mean, can you
I
get one?
think there is is there a 40-foot?
They make, I think it's a 41 foot.
A 41-foot.
And how big is that sign?
Pardon me?
How big is
That
that?
might, does that get to the 110 or something?
That's the 30, where Ken is right now.
Right.
Yeah, so that's,
So that would clear that billboard. And it would clear it significantly.
It would clear, but it wouldn't, well, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Which sign, the 41-foot?
Yes, would clear the billboard and would clear it significantly.
I would agree, just from looking at it. If that came down 6 feet, it would still clear the billboard. My second question.
Yes, sir.
Which location do you prefer? Would you prefer the north or the
Well,
south sign
so
location?
the perspective, we did those for you because we wanted you to see those like that. So we had our architect do it. When you're driving, so the 42-foot, we'd be fine with that also. That sign, though, as you're coming, it will clear the billboard, but it won't clear some of the buildings when you're coming south. So which, if we have to live with that, we have to live with that. The billboard's about, it's 14 to the base plus 12.
Right.
So that's 26. So then the 30-foot, the 42-foot sign will clear the billboard, but some of those buildings, it'll still get blocked a little bit. That's what our guy told us.
Coming south, there's no buildings
No, no.
to,
I think he's coming from the south, going
Coming from the
north.
south going north.
Okay.
Because we're putting that back 80 feet on our, the preferred one, which is in a parking lot spot. The other one coming, so I'm sorry, I spoke poorly, coming south, if we put it in the option 2, because the highway is lower by quite a bit than the building, that would probably not be able to be seen, and that's what would happen. We could have them draw that, but that's why I think that he said you'd have to get a fully visible sign, you'd have to go to that one. Like I said, we can do that. We'd prefer it. If we could see it, we'd prefer it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Steve, is it some of these buildings here, if you're coming southbound, is a concern to see?
Oh, and
No, I think it's
you
coming
mean the
from the
south spot, the second option?
No, if you're driving south, I'm wondering if the taller billboard or 47-foot height was needed
Well, we're
because of
set
this.
way back. Well, to be way back there, yeah, that's a little bit.
those
But
buildings are
the
Quonset.
reality is, the building is, tilted a tiny bit, so, on the highway. So coming north, you can see the building as you get up to it. It's the southbound, and where we have to put it to get out of that sightline easement that we poorly negotiated. That's our issue. So I looked at that too and thought, well, maybe a little smaller sign would work right there.
Right.
And so, that, Brad, do you remember the head size of that sign?
120.
120?
We are also in a bind because we have told locally owned smaller businesses, residents, no, for what you are requesting. And they had to modify their signs. And and did not get what they wanted for their visibility.
Car wash is a good example.
The car wash is a good example, the truck people was another one. And as we know and Ken knows, signs are a hugely hot topic, and the first one that goes to 47, then, oh my gosh, the billboard people are gonna be coming back and say, oh, we have to go at least to 55. And, you know, it escalates until it's a problem, a really big problem. This is,
We're reasonably confident
when-
that the auto dealers across the highway are over 40.
I'm not sure about that.
That's why I said reasonably. I think so, but
I drove by those today and I didn't get my trigonometry out.
I know. But, you know, we are not difficult people. We're just trying to get some sign there that will work for us in Ford. I think that, you know, we did it. We have to figure out a solution for Ford.
When you say Ford requires this,
Ford does require a pylon sign as part of their deal.
okay, but what if you go back to Ford and say, the city says no on 47 feet and 100 and, what is it, 32
130.
face?
130 is the,
130 face.
yes.
We can have 41 with a smaller face.
I'll do it. I don't have any problem saying that to them. I'll say anything to them. And I'll try it.
And I
So
need to understand the consequences.
there's, the consequences are, they're gonna say, can the people on the highway see the sign as we agreed when these are long processes to get these businesses approved from the manufacturer. It's just, they have that authority to do a lot of things when it's a new point. When you buy another Ford store or something, then it's different, because it's already there. This one is them, so that's what they'll ask. We'll do renderings. If we could fall back to the 40, is it 41, you said?
It's 41, and I think it's a 120 head.
If we can fall back to that, I will definitely, you know, we don't have an option. If you say that's what we have to do, then I'm just gonna say that's what the city said, and we'll find a place to put it. We'll still have to set it way back. We have to get out of the sightline easement, and we will be happy that you are offering that.
If I could ask a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't think the setback for us is an issue.
Setback
That's
isn't an
a
issue.
No, we don't
non-issue.
care about
They really beat into our heads from the city attorney, this whole sign thing in the heights. I'm curious, you have an option 1 and option 2, and I know you have option 1 up in front of us, Ken, and that location, or let's go down to option 2 and show the view from the road. Now the shorter one, the shorter sign, and go from northbound looking at it. My question is, could you do 2 signs? One from the one end, one from the other, so that you can't have 2 signs. That's absolutely forbidden, because then we could stay within the height limits.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd
But-
like that bill every night. every
Well,
night.
I'm not worried about their bill. I'm worried about getting the sign.
But that, I appreciate
I'm
that.
trying to get
because-
them the sign they need, and I'm sure Ford would be happy with 2
That
signs.
would
but-
be a different variance.
So that would be a more problematic for us, because there'd be 2 signs.
We'd have more square footage than is allowed on the site.
And the code says you get one, because they're adjacent to the freeway, they get 1 additional pylon sign. If they weren't adjacent to the freeway, they'd only have 1, and they've got that out front on 15th. Because they're adjacent to the freeway, they get the opportunity to put the second one up with all those parameters along the freeway, the 20-foot, blah, blah, blah. And here we are. But not a third.
And you
That's-
can't put it on the side of the building itself. It has to be, I don't know if that's a provision of us, because I'm looking at this option 2 right here, and as a big old Ford sign could go on the side of that building, in the white space there, and would be free of everything, I would think, and would be close to the highway. So from that direction, I think you'd meet it, but maybe
From that
Ford
direction.
doesn't like it, or maybe.
Well, they are contractually, we have to put a pylon sign somewhere and rent it, lease it from them forever. So that's just the
Maybe you
deal.
could put the one on this side and then put the 30-foot pylon. I'm just trying to find an option that works without, there's no way in heck that I can sit here tonight and approve the taller sign, no way.
Well,
Just
how
from
about,
what,
how about the 40?
I won't even go over what's our limit, the 30?
30.
I'm stuck there. Because you can always appeal it to the city council, right? If we reject it, they can, and you can take it to the higher ups, and maybe they're willing to bend on that. But from what we've been told over and over again, that's just not something we can budge on, or at least not something I feel I can budge on here.
Well, I'm the newest member, and I see this as a great opportunity for the city. I don't like the fact that, I understand that it was last minute and you didn't realize the easement for the billboard, but I have a hard time with a billboard that doesn't employ anybody or bring business to the city, blocking a business from having a sign visible. I asked a question about a smaller sign with the 41, trying to find a median, somewhere we can work together and maybe move forward. I have seen dealerships with large signs. This is right on the highway. I guess as a new member and not had battles before on signs, I don't see a huge issue with the sign. If it, I don't know, I guess I'm less opposed to it, I guess, than most of the,
Or maybe less jaded.
less jaded too, probably.
And we,
You've been yelled at less frequently.
but we do want to be clear that we did negotiate that easement,
Yeah.
but we did not understand how they would enforce that easement. I mean, so, the light poles are amazing to me that we have to saw them off. So to give you a perspective of, we're just in a difficult spot with the person, it's not your fault at all, it's not the city's fault, it's our fault. But we still would have tried to buy the land and cobble together the land, because there was no other place to go with the Ford store, would have gone to another city.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up there. There was 4 parcels, we made them into one. The billboard person had 2 of the parcels.
To be really honest, you would have better visibility, unique visibility, if you maximized that long wall. You really would, because
The south
we
wall,
get, Forest Lake folks, as you're driving that, get really jaded on the billboards over and over, which is why we work so hard on the billboard, the changeable billboard. And he has I don't know if you've noticed, but he has a very significant community presence. I mean, he advertises our local sports teams and our clubs and a lot of our local nonprofits. And so, that really has worked, but
And that's down right here, I think, Susan, right? Is
yeah,
that at 11th?
on 11th,
Yeah.
on 11th. But for me, we said no to some local folks. And it's very difficult for me to turn around and say, just because you're a big company and you want this, and you've done this in other places, sort of like Walmart telling cities, you will have this building and you will like it.
well,
Mr.
that's a little bit unfair. We have not done this.
no.
We've never had billboard
No.
easements.
No.
That's what happened. We've never done this. We don't have one sign in any place that's higher than the ordinance, because we've never had to.
And I'm not saying that, I'm trying to explain history. You are making a very honest and very difficult situation and trying to manage it. And I understand that.
I think
Can you give me some history on the 30-foot ordinance on the sign? I mean, there's gotta be buildings along the freeway corridor that are higher than 3 stories high. Just thinking 30 feet is not that high. How long has it been an ordinance that, because he's not that you're right, but I know there are some sizable signs on the other side of the highway for the dealerships too.
We can,
Not to
we
say
can,
that they're
we can
40
check.
or 30,
They-
but
They're higher than 30.
just wondering where that came from or how long it's been
I
in.
know the shed sign.
It's been in place a while.
It's at least 40.
The
I would
last sign
think
ordinance that we
probably-
did was what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Anyway.
Last sign ordinance was 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, and I doubt we touched the height of the signs on the freeway even. That's been there.
That's been there longer.
You know, the freeway has not been an issue. You know, it's Broadway Avenue and Lake Street with the flashing
This is
signs
on-
and
this is
everything
on the
else. So,
highway, right.
it's really nice that we're getting a new business on the freeway. A nice
Right,
looking
that's why we
business.
thought it might work.
You
Because
know.
I am pretty confident, though, that we're not at 30, they're probably grandfathered in across the highway, because it's probably before you change the sign ordinance. But they're taller than their buildings.
Yes,
Mr.
they are.
Chair, if I could just
So-
add a little insight. You asked or mentioned the truck places up here.
Where?
That they, in this property where they had asked for the variance in 2021.
Yes.
The difference is they're not on the freeway.
Right.
So
Correct.
they're under more restrictive code language where they wanted us, for the applicants, they wanted to have a freestanding sign along here 25 feet tall. So in theory, it could be seen from the freeway. But the code says it could only be as tall as the building, which is about 9'2", 1 story.
Yeah.
And the commission recommended denied it. It got appealed to the council. Council also denied it. Same but different because it was, they were trying to claim that it could be seen from the freeway, even though it would be parallel to the building, you'd be zooming by at 60 or 70 miles an hour. You might look over and see it, and then, I think in this case, it is different because these tall enough, you'll see these, well, maybe not a quarter mile down the road either way, and it's on the freeway. Does that make it right? Not necessarily, but that was a case where a sign variance was denied.
I think at this point, we do have to have a public hearing. I'd like to move forward with that part of the meeting, and then we'll all come back and regroup as needed.
Certainly. So you're excusing us?
Yes.
For now. A moment. This is a public hearing, so work just like the last one. We ask anyone who wishes to speak to this application to please come forward and do so. Spend a couple minutes giving your thoughts. Once we have heard from everyone, we will close the public hearing. So at that, I'll open the public hearing at 8:03 PM. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? It's a crowded place tonight. Ken, is there anyone online?
No one online, Mr. Chair.
Is there anything to be, I don't believe, did you tell us that there's nothing to be read in to the minutes? You have
No,
no
there-
correspondence?
There is none, and no emails or comments or any
Okay, thank you.
Any pros or cons?
Okay. I'll ask again, does anyone wish to speak to this application? Seeing no one come forward and no one online to speak, we will close the public hearing at 8:04 PM. So commissioners, we have some options here. We can have further discussion with the applicant on signs. We can make motions, we can table it, whatever we would like to do. I leave it in your trusty hands. If I may ask, so when are you hoping to open?
July 8th.
That's pretty exact.
If we say yes tonight. Even if we say yes tonight, I'm not sure.
What?
If we were to say yes to everything, happy joy tonight, and the council were to act on the 24th,
Well,
do you actually get a sign up in a week?
Madam Chair, or,
They could still
pardon me,
open.
Susan. Remember, if the commission approves the variances, this is the last stop.
Okay.
It's only if it's appealed that would go to the council. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I thought I heard maybe some support for this sign at the 41 or 42-foot height at 120 square feet instead of the 130 and 47 foot, unless there's any consensus. Well, first of all, it seemed like the north side was better than the south side, if one had to pick a location. I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to guide the discussion, and you guys go from here.
So, north side, option one, would you guys agree that would be the better option? Perfect. So they prefer option one. I have no problem with the 41-foot sign. If you come down a little and we meet in the middle with 120 by 41, I would make that motion. I think they've made every reasonable effort, purchased multiple sites in our city to put a dealership on the highway that will bring jobs to our city. I believe they had issues with sign variances, understandably, for the billboard. I think that Ford sign looks a lot better than that billboard, to be honest myself. Right there, it'll be somewhere in the middle. I would like to see this get taken care of tonight, I guess. And I would make a motion that we approve site location one with a 41-foot billboard,
Freestanding sign.
freestanding sign.
It's not a billboard.
Sorry, I apologize, thank you. Freestanding, monument sign. It's not a monument sign. Freestanding.
And size?
41 by 120.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Do I have a second? Hearing none, the motion dies. Which doesn't mean it's a bad motion, it just means that we may not be ready for that quite yet.
Sure.
You know, so if I can bring this back, you know, they would prefer the north. Do they have all the signs they can put on the building? This idea,
Yes.
I think that Don had brought up.
Yes. In fact, on the east side, they wanted to have 3, and I said they could only have 2. That's the 15th Street side.
I'm not worried about 15.
And there is one proposed, not on there for the west side. But on the sign, on the building side, that's a different visibility than the tall pylons or freestanding that are or facing the road versus parallel to the road. And again, they're back to what Ford is saying.
Well, I'm wondering, can they put one more big sign on that? It would be the north side, and then put a smaller pylon. What was that, option 2 then? Option 2, be the smaller pylon. You know what I'm saying?
Down here,
Yeah, put it closer to the 30-foot there, and then on that north wall, yeah, this side.
so there's option 2 with the 30-foot.
All right, so that's the side I need to see.
But if you look at option 2, the location, if you scroll down on your plan here, they could adjust that to the right a little further so it wouldn't be hidden behind that billboard. If you go back to your view, Ken. And you can see, well, yeah, so if they were to move it over to the other planter box or adjust the planter box to the right, it could be over there. And that would potentially solve their southbound or their northbound traffic visibility. And then if they can put a Ford sign on the north side of the building, that solves their southbound traffic visibility, in my mind. So I you know, that's.
Other thoughts?
Am I hearing that there's more appetite here for variances to signs on the building faces than there is for the very high signs? Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be my opinion, yes.
Yeah, I think if you're not exceeding the building height, it would seem like you can justify that with, you know, from a visibility. I would have an easier time justifying that than the pylon sign issue. But, you know, that's a tough one, too. If we're only allowing certain amount of signs, and you're saying that's on each side of the building, they're only allowed so many?
Correct.
Okay, well, that'd be a whole new consideration,
Yes.
and I'd have
And
to.
if I'm going by memory, I didn't look at this in detail. I'm pretty sure maxed out all the wall signage they could, there's some lighting that they could put on.
Well, it's the degree of variance. And I think that what I'm hearing is that there might be more appetite to grant a significant variance for this, the wall sign facing the expressway than for the tall pylon signs. There is room on the property to the north for leasing of space for a sign. Unfortunately, it's not on your property. But as you travel the highway, there,
But then, Susan,
sir,
then it's an off-site sign which fits the definition of a billboard.
God, I hate signs.
Does a pylon sign have to be a certain distance away from the building?
Probably,
Because like if I'm
Probably
looking at the north corner and there's a tree there marked
Yep.
GD, whatever that kind of tree that stands for.
in here?
Yeah, that's the tree there. I mean, you replace that tree with the 30-foot pylon sign, then you're not on the building, you're off the building, you're a pylon. Yet if you look at your view channels and your heights, you're getting well, you're gonna have to look again, see if you're getting visibility
You are.
coming from the north. Look, yeah, you are, you're seeing that side of the building, we saw that. So you solve your southbound traffic view. Now go to your northbound traffic view, and again, you could do the same possibly with either of those two trees on that corner. I don't know which, probably the tree to the right, because you've got a window up there maybe that you don't want to, and put a pylon. So now you've got your northbound,
But if you're saying two separate signs?
that would be, yeah, I'm sorry, again, that's two separate signs. So
That's-
we got a lot of sign rules.
Yes, we do.
Took you a while to get there, didn't it?
Well, no, I've, you know, and then maybe it's just one of them on the building and one of them's a pylon adjacent to the building like that.
And it seems like we have a lot of rules, but when you travel around, we've all seen cities that are sign, and you don't see anything else.
Oh, yeah.
And we have never gone to what a lot of quote scenic or whatever cities, no signs. So we've always tried to split the middle and be reasonable, both from a visibility for businesses and the aesthetics for the community.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We haven't heard anything from Mr. Larson. I don't know if he had any thoughts or comments or prayers.
He's going to drop the bombshell soon, but I think
Well-
he's still formulating his plan.
The side that faces the highway of the building, I know they're only allowed to have one side, one sign or whatever, but why they couldn't put that, like you say, we're kind of fighting between that, but having that forward sign on the side of the building, you're gonna see it as you're northbound, and you'll see it from your southbound too, but it won't be like a straight shot when you're north and south. But the sign is lit as well, correct? At night or in the evening?
So I'm a little mixed up. So first I want to say, I think the city has been very reasonable with us. So we have no complaints about it. We don't have any particular complaints about your sign ordinances either. So we're just in the spot. I like the idea of the two billboard signs, but I knew that wasn't going past that, only because you could see from both sides. Are you talking about the south-facing north?
So
Actually, it's west facing.
throw up your northbound.
Well, we have the signage on the west, that we have
That
signs
one?
on the
Yep.
west.
So now, if you look at it where it says Forest Lake on the building,
Uh-huh.
you can't put anything of Ford Nature on the side next to Forest Lake.
Well, on the other corner, like a
think the
Ford
Or
logo?
just even out here in the middle?
Yeah, on the, somewhere along, on the facing of the
We
building,
were maxed out.
on the outer facing of the building.
I think it's on the north end of the building, right?
Either, is there another sign there, or what is that way down on the other end?
So,
Down here?
Yep,
That might be the Ford logo.
okay.
no, Ford does have, we can ask them. They have specific, back to my beginning comments, they are very,
Particulars?
very specific on their image. It's a national, sometimes it's a global program for them. And so they are, you know, you guys are the easiest people to deal with compared to the Ford sign people. So if that helps you at all, and I hope the Ford people aren't watching.
We've never been told that.
I know that, so I figured I'd at least give you something to remember as well.
Do
So,
they prefer no signs?
no, they
or
want their pylon sign, they want specific height, depth, everything on the building. They measure it out, and, you know, we want a Ford store. And so, we don't really fight them on that.
Let me, how tall is your building?
30 feet, which is how tall the city allows now.
I was just, you know, I'm back to that little triangle that's about, you got your 4 bays, and then you go a little bit further north, yeah. And you got that area,
In here?
no, come down and now you're too far south. Go west, where the parking lot ends on this west side here. Go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, right about there.
Yeah.
You know, we get in this whole zone where you got a lot. Can you put that pylon up against the building?
We looked really hard at that, so fire trucks know the drive aisle would be too small, and we have a car wash on that corner that
There's
you come in and
access
that's
doors
where
in
they
here.
exit, so no, that it won't. We wanted to, it won't go there. We actually were trying to inch it out, because we pulled all the material in there. I mean, we really thought we were putting the sign there, and sorry, you know, you live and learn. This one we're learning, so it
you look
will
here,
not
there's
fit
doors.
between the sightline easement and the building. It won't fit up there in the corner. We desperately tried to figure that out.
I mean, there are cities that have much stricter sign rules than us. And,
Really bad.
there's
and there are Ford dealerships and other
Those cities.
dealerships, and they get by with whatever
No,
they get by with.
There's Maplewood where we're in is strict.
Yeah, Maplewood's
But
another
when
one.
you, I mean, Ken was there, but
Partly
it's
my
the
fault.
billboard sightline easement that got us. It's not Forest Lakes. And hopefully we never indicated that to you. We've never thought you're
Oh,
unreasonable
no,
with
I'm
signs.
not suggesting
But
that,
mo-
but I'm
but
I'm just saying
I
that
don't-
Ford should be able to,
Can I say one thing about
yield in
Ford?
some
So
way.
Ford's a great company. They haven't had an open point Ford. It's not an old Ford building that came in from the way in the past for 30 years. That's what we're dealing with here. All those Ford stores that's the domestic legacy brand. So they're either remodeled, rebuilt, and and then when that happens, then they go in for sign variances. Most of the Ford stores that you're seeing are old buildings, and they're under old sign ordinances, and a lot of them have much bigger signs. We get that. This is, Ford told us it's been 30 years since they've had an open, what they call an open point, where they are coming in with a brand-new building, which we build, which we're happy to do it. But that's kind of what we're dealing with here. And so they have a lot of new people on this too, saying, this is what we want. This is going to be our US newest store from ground up. They're all going to come out here. That's part of what we're dealing with too. You know, they're all going to come to Forest Lake and they want to have a big grand opening, and they want to stand in front of that pylon sign and get a picture.
do one of these.
With
Well, if
you.
they stand in front of it,
With you guys.
if they stand in front of it, and then the picture's taken from far enough away to get the whole freaking sign,
Yeah, we'll put them in a bucket truck.
You'll never-
and
you'll
we'll
never
put 'em
see
up there in a
anybody.
bucket truck. But I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek, but that is really what, they're very excited about it. They've come already multiple times, and it's exciting for them. You had a Ford store here, and the gentleman ended up having some legal
Issues.
trouble, and they closed it, and they kind of forgot about Forest Lake. And now,
Now it's a Jeep dealer. I believe it's a Jeep dealer.
well, we're back, and we're excited. We think it'll be a great city to be a partner with. So that, I mean, the 41 foot, we would love that option. I think the signs on the faces of the building, we would be wide open to that as well, but I think you're gonna keep running into sign maximum ordinances, and we'll run into a little bit of the Ford issue, so.
But I think that there is more appetite here to approve a variance on that freeway-facing side of the building than there is,
A big whomping
right,
tall one.
all right?
That's
So-
great
so it-
direction for me and Brian. So you're saying we could come back and say, we propose a sign on the west-facing northern corner,
Okay, can you pull that up?
and then a 30-foot sign as well,
So,
that would be blocked from one side.
so someplace in here,
Yeah.
commissioners?
Can you, where are you, sir? Okay, I see that, you got that, Brian? I'm clear on that, which, look, we're
And then-
grateful for that
And then which
opportunity
location
to
for
try.
the one pylon, north or south?
Wherever they want to put it.
I
Yeah,
would
as
think
long
they
as
would want it visible from the northbound lane, because that's where
From the
traffic is
ramp.
probably more likely to come from, and then they'd know to exit at the next ramp or whatever. But whatever, that's there.
Does that make sense?
It does, and we're very, we'll be energetic to try and get back here with that option.
So,
Hearing that,
Ken?
I was gonna say, if it's gonna be a table or deny, then that's one thing, and then if you're giving them direction and it involves another variance, or we won't charge again, but we're starting over with the 60 days and the whole review process. And
We'll-
I don't think you'll make the grand opening.
No, we can deal with that with Ford.
Okay.
They're not gonna,
So just,
believe me, they wanna sell us a bunch of trucks, so
yeah.
they'll give us some leeway for that.
So just to make sure I'm clear, and I guess the commission for the applicants, look at wall signage here, and if that might be a variance. And then the one pylon here or the one pylon up here?
It's a,
Choice.
wherever the
Dealer's
applicant
choice.
wants.
Yeah, we'll have to find a spot where a 30-foot pylon will be seen from the other direction. And I don't know if we can, but we're gonna try, and we'll work with
But
Ford.
that option one certainly shows it from the other direction, and you gotta remove those light poles anyways, probably.
Well, the
For
30-foot though, the 30-foot from north coming south does
I was
not.
thinking from south driving north, the one he shows up on option one right now on
Oh,
the
yeah,
screen.
that
Oh,
south
Now you
driving,
moved it, now you go
Yeah,
back.
But see, this is 30 foot going south.
Yeah, but we know it's not gonna be visible from, well, whatever,
we just have to look at it with
Yeah,
the
look.
architect. I agree.
We
It's-
give him one 30-foot, he gets one 30-foot pylon sign, and he gets the
Wow.
sign on the west side of the building,
And to be-
facing the highway.
we'll
is-
bring it back and we'll consider it.
Potential, yeah,
That's
so
what
that,
we'll consider.
And just to be
we
clear,
That has
understand.
more chance of flying than,
yeah, well, so then we'd be asking for a variance for an extra building.
The building sign.
We wouldn't
And-
have to ask for a variance on the other.
well, back to this one, if I may, this height would be okay, but we're still on a setback variance.
Yeah.
setback, I
Yeah.
don't see it
I
as an
don't
issue.
think any of us have a setback issue.
No.
And then the size of the sign face.
What is the
Well, no,
30-foot
that
sign?
30-foot is, the 30-foot.
It's a smaller sign,
Yeah, that's below
It's like
the,
73 feet or
it's
something.
below the 100.
so that meets the 100, so.
And heck, we're saving you money in the long run.
Oh, listen, you're not hearing me complaining about that. If we can figure that out, it's gum on your shoe with the,
So-
with us.
So looking at this view, again, it'd be a sign similar to this, and then additional wall signage
Right.
Right there.
right there.
Yep.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Unless they chose the podium sign down on the south end of the building
No.
for some other if it was for some reason better, but one it's a one or the other, and we wouldn't seem to care either way on that.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So look, we think that's great direction for us, and we're gonna go to work on it. And we understand you didn't vote.
Yeah.
Well,
Mr.
we're gonna
Chair.
vote, don't worry.
Mr. Chair, I move that we table this until they come back
Well-
with,
Is it, if I may, Does it table, or do we have to deny the requests that are before you with direction to reconsider with other options?
If we deny according to previous city rules, they have to come back with a completely new permit.
Right,
Whereas if we table, they can come back with an amended request.
what she said.
And so my motion is to
Thank you.
table this request.
I
I have a
second.
motion to table. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We look forward to seeing you
Thank you.
Again,
again.
We appreciate it. Thank
Work
you
it
all.
out with the staff, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate all your
Thank you for
time.
your time. Welcome to Forest Lake.
Thank you again.
And
You know where to come.
My wife said no.
I just bought one, sorry.
thanks, guys.
and be safe and watch the weather, please.
Yeah, it's coming. Good night.
We will move on to item 7, staff updates.
Get the next meeting off.
So do we have Councilperson Roberts online tonight?
I didn't see him, no.
Then Ken, we'll start with you.
Just quickly, as the agenda says, the next meeting's canceled. 3 projects that are very close to getting started, while the new apartment building down at Headwaters is underway. The dental clinic on Centennial, they just got their final thing wrapped up today with engineers. They're supposed to start working Monday.
They've already cleared that, haven't
Well,
they?
they cleared, but now we're doing the utilities and underground and grading. And then the last thing, Chase is still dinging around to figure out what they need to do because they had to do plan revisions and get easement agreements, because remember, part of the parking lot was going on, the neighbors are working on that. And there was another one we just recently.
Where do we sit
Oh,
on the county
PGA
center?
PGA Investments down by Interstate, they're well underway.
Oh, yeah.
So those activities.
How do we sit with the new,
Environmental Center?
thank you. I can see the building.
They are the Environmental Center? for
Yes,
Washington
with,
County.
Will-
They are hopefully in the very, very, very final plan review comments, approvals from MinDOT to put in Headwaters Parkway. They've been going back and forth with MinDOT since about December on the plans.
How was our trees received?
Okay. Well, we gotta look at the budget, and, yeah, please do. And I haven't gotten anything back from them saying, yep, here's what we can do, or here's what we can't do. And we're not gonna bring that forward to the council until they have 100% agreement with MinDOT on what they're gonna build. And they're at 98% or some, and as part of that, then we'll bring the landscaping plan to council at the same time. And, yeah, so they keep, we had a meeting with some of the county staff a week or 2 ago, and they said, yeah, if we bid this by mid-July, we should be able to get it constructed in about 3 months. We should have it done by October, and we're not convinced that it's just gonna go this smoothly, because why would it? Because, and they know they can't get a certificate of occupancy to operate the building until they get Headwaters Parkway in. They know. We've told them.
Any other questions for Ken? Or Ken, you got any other comments?
No, thank you.
All right, Tim?
No? Good.
Sue?
I have one request. Would it be possible, when you are sending out the notifications for the various neighborhood meetings, to send the planning commission members notice of those meetings also? I happen to be doing the planting of the gardens up on the deck, and noticed the sign on the door that said, neighborhood meeting, and I'm asked what it was about. We don't typically know that those are happening, and quite frankly, I got a lot of information that night that helped me out.
Did we
So,
run into a quorum problem?
Yeah, you might. Or you could-
Actually,
you
you're
could post
noticing
it.
those neighborhood meetings.
Yeah, it's noticed. All you gotta do is say that there may be a quorum of planning.
Maybe a quorum,
Yeah,
maybe.
just like the city does
Yeah.
when they have some event like Arts in the Park or something,
Yeah.
there may be a quorum.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we could, it's
that-
easy enough to do.
That would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Larson?
No, sir.
Done.
Nope.
And nothing from me. So on that note, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
It's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you for your service. Have a wonderful summer and a great Fourth of July weekend, and hopefully we see you all back here with all your fingers, toes, and eyes.
Truth.